Hello, welcome to another installment of the 425 podcast. Take an opportunity to thank everybody for checking out our first one and some of our content. Appreciate all the likes and anybody who subscribed. I really do appreciate it. I think this is like we said before, this is our goal, is to get a voice out there that can try to cut through some of the stuff that we're hearing and try to just give truth, put truth out there and let everybody know some of the headlines. How do I feel about it, and what do I think we're going with it? Where do I think we're going, and the impact that I think we can have, each individual person, each individual American, as long as we decide to share our voice and make sure that it's heard. Starting today, we're going to kick off by talking about D.O.G.E. I'm super impressed with this entire agency. What Elon Musk is doing with the federal government, I think, is something that's long overdue. I think that the federal government for a long time has been so focused on social issues and things like that, which of course, although they affect our everyday American and everyday person just trying to get through life, so much of what the federal government was established for was to protect our rights, protect our borders, protect our country from people from the outside and anybody who's gotten in here who's trying to do things that are just evil. The federal government was established for all that. And I think what's happened over time is that people have become really complacent with just the social services. And then people that work inside the federal government have gotten really used to just using taxpayer dollars like if it doesn't matter. Whenever you're not a producer, it's almost like sometimes children, whenever they get, they're not used to what it is. They don't know what it is to make a dollar. So they throw things away that they think that are actually valuable. And then whenever they go get their first job, they go back and they're like, oh my gosh, I would never throw this away or something like that, because they're realizing the value of a dollar. Well, us Americans, we're taxpayers and we know the value of a dollar because we have to go work for it. We have to go do whatever we need to do to produce a dollar to support ourselves, support our family, support anybody who depends on us. Well, the federal government has been more in the taking business than on the giving business. So what's going on is that they don't respect the dollar. So then whenever anybody, any third party who wants to sell them anything, gives them a price, they don't really have a need to negotiate. Why? It's not their money. And they know that if tomorrow comes around, there's not enough money, well, then taxpayers got to pay more. And we got to continue to up the tax and up the tax and up the tax. Because we got to pay for whatever we want to pay for, any luxuries that the federal government wants to take, all those kind of things. If you haven't noticed, we're paying for those. American people that go to work every single day, we're the ones that are footing the bill for everything that's going on in the federal government. So the government continues to overspend on everything. I've seen some stories this week of $2,000 K-cups, $2,000 coffee cups in certain agencies. A ridiculous amount budget for food providing, even though some of these are really funny and really interesting, because although most of the people in the agency are working from home, so there's nobody in the business, nobody in the actual office, not to mention, which that gets me on another little tangent of why are we leasing buildings, costing taxpayer money to support that building, maintain that building, heat or cool that building, secure that building, yet we allow all the workers that are supposed to be inside the building to work from home, which over time, for the most part, has proven to be sometimes, not every time. Of course, there are people that are very, very effective working from home. But unfortunately, a lot of times it ends up with being more wasteful and not as productive whenever people are working from home. And of course, that kind of sucks to hear. I would love to work from home, but there's just certain situations where that's not as beneficial. Well, if that's all going on, but yet D.O.G.E just uncovered, I think it was Saturday, that they were spending $2,400 on K-cups for coffee. There's nobody in the building. Who's drinking coffee? So it's just literally throwing away taxpayer money that we have worked so hard to earn. See, D.O.G.E is getting in there and they're cutting through all this frivolous spending and saying every single dollar that we collect from somebody who has worked so hard to earn it, we're going to respect that dollar. We're going to make sure that it's not put anywhere that it doesn't need to go. We're going to look at the people that we have in certain positions. We're going to start evaluating people and making sure that if we're paying their salary with American people's tax money, we're going to make sure that they're earning that salary and that they're the best equipped for that position. See, this is going to be something that a lot of people are going to find like, well, that's kind of abusive or that's kind of wrong. But ultimately, it's really the only way to do it. If you have a business and you're running your business, you have to balance your checkbook. Let's get past business. In your house, whoever in your house is responsible for balancing a checkbook, if they don't balance the checkbook, you lose your house. Power gets turned off. You may go time without eating, without food. If you have kids, you know the stress that adds to it, because you have to make sure that not only do you provide for their basic necessities like we're required to, but I'm a parent. I don't want to just give them the basic. I want to give them as much as I possibly can because I want them to enjoy their life. I want them to live free and enjoy being a kid. Well, what's going on is that a lot of Americans, myself included, we got so used to going to the 9-to-5 job. And the American system a long time ago, was changed, and they started to withdraw taxes straight from your paycheck. Well, that's one of the biggest tricks that was played on us, because the American people, by and large, don't really take a look at their check stub each and every week. So we just get used to living within our budget. If our check is $500, we learn how to make $500 work for our house. If it means a smaller house, if it means a tighter, stricter budget on food or on other activities, we make it happen. We make it do. If we need a second job, we go get that second job. That's the American spirit. That's what this country was founded on. That we're going to fight and we're going to make it. We're going to make it no matter what. Well, the U.S. government has started taking taxes from our checks without us seeing it. I challenge you this week. Take a look at your check stub whenever you get in. Find out how much you've been. What is your part in those coffee cups, in the sushi for certain agencies, in the buildings that sit dormant and empty while they work from home, yet we have to foot the bill for securing, heating, and cooling them. I challenge you this week, take a look at your check stub, each line individually, and find out what part you've had in that. And I promise you, when you do that and you figure out how much you paid this week, let's go ahead and multiply that by 52 weeks of this year. So that way you can find out truly how much you've put into the federal government. Once you do that, and then maybe if every single person does that, we'd start appreciating D.O.G.E a lot more. I know I have. I appreciate the job that he's doing, the transparency that he has with the American people. Everybody under this administration has been super transparent with everything that goes on, the good, the bad, and the ugly. They've been very eager to share that with us, as they should. People, don't forget they work for us. It's not the other way around. We work to support them. Let's start acting like that. Let's make our voices heard. Like I said in the intro, it's so important that we start sharing our voices and let people know what's going on. The next thing is Trump and everybody that's working with him has stopped the USAID. I'm not going to talk much about this, but I encourage everybody to look into this a little bit further. We've been aiding other countries while our country burns in different areas, whether it be with our healthcare system, whether it be with people recovering from storms, fires. Everything that's been going on in this country has been so hard to get money. Let's not forget the last administration joke of almost $700 to people who lost their entire home. I don't mean lost their home like it's flooded and we have to rebuild it. I mean lost their home like even the real estate that their home sat on is now gone and it's part of a river. And our federal government thought, we'll give them $700. But USAID has been giving $50 million for unspeakable things to other countries that we really have nothing to do with. It's not benefiting anybody here. It's not benefiting any part of our country. I mean, I can't help but to be a skeptic and think somebody got a pretty decent payoff to approve some of these things that we're involved with, because really there's no other way to see it. The transgender activism that's been supported in other countries, even though most of the American people after the last election have spoken and don't even agree with it, but yet we're supporting that in other countries. There's purchasing condoms in other countries, $50 million. Are you kidding me? How on earth can you balance a checkbook if you're taking our money, sending it abroad to do things that are unspeakable, unnecessary, don't help relations with other countries? They absolutely do nothing but throw our money away. If you're going to do things like that, I literally rather you light a fire and burn the money. But giving it to organizations that are against the American will, that you can't even get them to support in our own country, so you think it's fair for you to hide it under an organization and send it abroad? No matter what happens to that money, it's gone. And I understand that. But it's time that we focus inward and we fix our issues at home before we worry abroad. And when we do worry about things that happen abroad, why does that automatically stop being the American people's voice? Did the American government magically start creating money somewhere else? If I have a voice in how I spend my dollar personally and federally inside of our shores, and then I really feel that the American people should have a voice in how our money is spent abroad as well. The Democrats and the other party, really, Democrats is almost a stretch now. I know Democrats that are switching parties and everything because of, really, it's so hard to align with a party that's gone this far left. And really, really left is a perfect terminology for it because they've left a lot of their people behind. And you can tell that things aren't changing. The last election showed, in my opinion, a red wave. It showed a complete change, and thank God for that. I'm still praying and thanking God for the fact that he opened so many Americans' eyes to what our country was becoming and what we were standing for at this point. And I think a lot of Americans almost had to probably be embarrassed of the stuff that's happened over the last 4 years in our country and abroad as well. Well, this week, somebody who survived the shooting in Florida, and you think that, hey, that's a great, I hope they're electing him further. Well, the Democrat Party has put him in charge of different aspects inside of their party. Somebody who goes against everything. And I'm not staying on this topic very long. I only wanted to point out one thing. For anybody who's watching this who may not agree with Republicans, or you may be a libertarian, you may be a Democrat, I am actually not talking about parties. What I'm talking about is that the American people, by and large, have become unified over the last 4 years, watching everything burn and seeing everything go so horribly wrong for our country, watching Americans struggle and make life decisions at the grocery store. Watching people in North Carolina struggle and be slapped in the face by their federal government, watching the wildfires in California run rampant while there's no water in fire hydrants, while fire trucks from other states, because the American will is that we want to help, and other states are like, we'll send you trucks, and the state saying, well, that truck may produce a little too much carbon, so we rather burn. The American people spoke loud and clear whenever we said, we're done with this. We're ready to go back to the American way. We want a president and leadership that will take us there. Democratic Party hasn't got that yet. David Hogg was elected to work in the Democrat Party as a party leader. Somebody who's anti-law enforcement, anti-American spirit. Really, he's against the entire country. I challenge you again. This week, it's almost like a week of homework because I want you. It's not about what I say. It's about what you look up. I'm hoping that if my voice does anything, it's point you in the right direction, that you can look up different things and don't take me at my word. If you're watching on YouTube or anything, please like, subscribe, everything. Yes, that's so important to me because I'm really passionate about reaching people. Comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree with me. Let me know if you don't agree with me. The beauty of this is that we live in America. We don't have to agree on everything. It's perfectly fine. I love to have conversations and talk to people. And we can talk about different aspects and things in that. Well, let's do that in the comment section. Let's talk about it. But I will challenge you to look at the Democrat Party, if you're affiliated or if you agree with them on certain things, and look at your representation in it and see if that's something that you really want to stand for. The next one that I wanted to talk about was something that this week happened, and people literally on mainstream media were having a meltdown, and it's tariffs. I've been hearing about tariffs because President Trump is very pro-tariff. But see, I think a lot of people on the left, and they know this in the mainstream media, they want to convince you that he's doing this to hurt our country. Let's not forget that Donald Trump actually wrote a book, The Art of the Deal. If he knows how to do anything, he knows how to negotiate. But yet, it doesn't stop people in the mainstream media and on the left that have never negotiated a deal on anything, not even at a garage sale, but they'll speak their voice and they'll say, I know more than Donald Trump about making a deal, about negotiating. How about we let the man work? And sure enough, he has been working. Well, this week he announced that he's going to put tariffs on Canadian and Mexican goods, 25%. Oh, that's excessive. Why? Why is it excessive? We haven't had fair tariffs in this country ever. It's been a very, very long time since the tariffs that our country receives has been fair. You know what Donald Trump is trying to do right now with these tariffs? Which, by the way, I don't think 25% is actually what he's going for. I think he's trying to negotiate and broker a deal. And he has to create a starting point to start the conversation. And the first initial knee-jerk reaction from everybody was, well, that's too much. And the Mexican president came up and Justin Trudeau, who's really pointless, stood up and said, oh, well, this is this. And we're just going to, China threatened to sue. Trudeau said, we're just not going to do bit. That lasted 24 hours, people. 24 hours before they came back to the table. And they said, hey, give us 1 month so that way we could talk to you. And let's come up with a deal. That's the art of negotiation. He's not going to stick strong to that 25%. He gave him a starting point. He drew a line in the sand and said the American people are tired of getting stepped on. And I'm a representative of them. So here's what I got to say. He gave him a starting point so that way they can come to the table, sit down, have a conversation. And it's exactly what's happening across the board. From China to Canada to Mexico to the conversation that happened with Panama about the canal. It's working out exactly as he said it would. It's a man that has a lot of knowledge, extensive knowledge of what it is to negotiate a deal that is fair for everybody involved. What I was saying earlier is, you know what he's actually trying to do here? Because a lot of people, we can disconnect from what the federal government is doing, and we're so focused just, well, how does that affect me? The government's going to make more money? Well, you're right. Is it going to maybe cost a little bit more money? Well, you're right. It might during these tariffs. Who knows what's going to happen? The beginning sometimes is a little rocky. Remember I said earlier that the only way the federal government gets money is from my pocket, your pocket? Well, what about if it started to produce things? What about if we became an exporter in crude oil, in oil, and anything, really? And if we started charging tariffs, energy tariffs and goods and all that stuff, the government may actually, hold your breath, it's exciting, may actually produce something that they can actually sell. And maybe, just maybe, they can alleviate that tax burden that me and every other American are sharing right now. And maybe that'll leave a little bit more money in those paychecks. Wouldn't it be nice to get a raise that has nothing to do with your employer? It has to do with the place that you live and the federal government saying, hey, you know what? We're not going to take quite as much from you. I think it's impressive what's happened so far. I think everybody coming to the table, Mexico sending 10,000 troops to the border to supplement our ICE agents and Homeland Security and everybody that's involved in securing our border and limiting that reach of cartels, limiting the impact of sex trafficking that's happening at the border and drugs that are coming through the border, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans every year. Now they're in the fight with us. Why? Because we're willing to be a team, but a team requires both of us to be equal parts. And for the longest time, everybody wants to be a teammate, quote unquote, with America because we take all the bad and give them all the good. And Trump's ensuring that those things are changing. Last topic I want to talk about today. It's going to be one that's it hasn't really concluded yet, but it's about the confirmation hearings that's been going on. Why is this important? See, I think Trump is an amazing president. Did he have errors as 45 when he was in there? Absolutely. Absolutely. Were there things that were mishandled with COVID at the very beginning? I fully agree, yes. I'm actually one of the ones that don't blame Trump. I think Trump came in, again, optimistically thinking that Washington wasn't in the condition that it actually was. And I think him trusting other people led to some unfortunate decisions. And I think he's learned from that. Well, why is that important nowadays? Today specifically, like right now in these couple of weeks. See, these confirmations that are going through, you just think, well, who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Everybody should care. These people are going to represent your voice in whatever aspect Trump has elected them to be in. The first one I want to talk about is Robert Kennedy Jr. First of all, I think it's amazing that Kennedy back in there. I think that has a lot of power to it, especially whenever he's coming in bipartisan. Somebody who's represented the Democrat Party for a long time, one of these left behind people, to work with Trump. Obviously, as somebody, obviously I'm overweight. I get that, but we're not talking about necessarily just that. Like RFK said, if you want to go have a hamburger, have a hamburger. You want to have a cheeseburger, have a cheeseburger. He's not here to be the food police. What he is here to do is to ensure that the products that are made for American consumption are safe. There's so many products in American shelves that aren't even allowed in majority of the countries on the planet. Why? Why are we willing, one of the most advanced countries in the world, why are we willing to sacrifice the health of our kids and the health of our people in the name of what? If other countries are willing to make those sacrifices or find replacements for them, find ways to make those products not using the toxic chemicals that are being used, there's something in our food, there's something in our life that's causing the American people to be one of the most unhealthy. And it's not just in our weight. It's the rate of cancer, the rate of autism. There's something going on. And Robert Kennedy Jr. is committed to finding out what that is. And I love that in his confirmation, whenever they were talking to him, certain people were already asking him about, will you be bought out? Will you be paid off? And he had to point out to all of them that they were actually the ones that were bought out. Bernie Sanders, a few years ago, received $1.5 million from pharmaceutical companies, yet he had the audacity to look at Robert F. Kennedy in the face and say, oh, well, are you going to receive some money from them? Are you kidding me? How dumb do these people think American people actually are? I mean, I don't think that they understand how the internet works and that you can Google all this information and that it's free for us to get. And although you may have to get to page 15 because sometimes our internet may be a little slanted one direction, the information is there. And the audacity of these people to look at somebody like Robert Kennedy Jr. in the face and accuse him of things that he's never done while they at the same time are being paid off by big pharmaceutical companies to promote medication, to over-medicate the American people into some type of comatose feeling and dependency on the federal government that should have never happened. I'm really passionate about this one because I think he has a lot of work ahead of him, but I think he's the man that can do it. And although I don't agree with a lot of his other things when it comes to drilling and oil and environmental stuff, I think a lot of that he oversteps. I think on this one, in his particular role, I'm very impressed with what he would do. The next one that we're going to talk about is Pete Hegseth. So Pete Hegseth is Secretary of Defense. I think that he is an amazing person with an amazing background. And in media, he learned how to communicate properly and effectively. But before that, he served in the armed forces. He knows what's required to do that job. He's very well trained for what he needs to do. And he is one of the people that's willing to work hand in hand with our president to make sure that things happen the way that they're supposed to happen. He's going to be a true partner to Trump. Pete Hegseth's confirmation has some interesting things. And I would, if you live in any of these that we're going to talk about today, research and see who voted against them. And there were some people voting against Pete Hegseth, namely from Kentucky. And I don't want to go into the details, but just so you know, that they're not every Republican. It can't just be, broad brush by saying, oh, you're a Republican, you're good. There are rhinos out there, and there's people that are more focused on the bottom dollar and how much money is going to put in their pocket than what it does for me and you as an American and as a person living in this country. And that's not what they should be worried about. If they were so interested in making money, they shouldn't have taken a position in public service where they agreed to make their voice the voice of the people, for it to be heard and to protect their people. After Pete Hegseth, we have Tulsi Gabbard, who hasn't been fully confirmed yet. I'm excited about this one. I think Tulsi Gabbard is just reading about her. I think she's an amazing individual. She's going for Director of National Intelligence. I think her history, her background in the military, I think will make her a great asset to Trump to be able to work hand in hand with him to make sure that our national intelligence is something that's taken, very, very seriously. That we get the proper information at the proper time, not when it's too late or when the information's too little or when the information's incorrect. I think she's going to do good in the respect of fighting for the American rights and freedoms that we have in this country. I think that somebody who Tulsi has changed parties and has alienated close family members and everything just because she's doing whatever it is that is in the name of being right and just correct and what's honestly what most of, and representing the American people like she should. I'm very excited about this one. I'm hoping that the confirmation goes well. I know she's reached some difficult people that are fighting her and making slander campaigns against her. Somebody who served our country definitely does not deserve that, and I hope that everything works out and that she's confirmed, because I think she'll do great things in her position. Kash Patel, similar to Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, what he's going to do in the FBI, I think, is impressive. FBI is one of the most corrupt organizations that the American people have right now. It's been weaponized against American people. Last time we spoke about people that were just praising and worshiping outside of abortion clinics were arrested, and the FBI was investigating them. January 6ers that the FBI got involved with, and corruption across the board. It's an organization that, in my opinion, needs to be broken down to the core and restructured. And something that you're going to hear me talk about a lot is those DEI hires. The FBI was riddled with DEI hires that weren't the most qualified for the job. It's just, for the first time, we were, as an American people, there was actual racism or some type of ism there that would actually let you hire somebody based on their race, on their creed, on their sexuality, on their gender. Those things are supposed to be blind. Justice is blind as well. We're supposed to hire people for these elected positions or these FBI positions like that are created to protect people. We want the best of the best, not hired for something else. I think the FBI, I think Kash Patel, if he is confirmed, I think he has a lot of work ahead of him. He's going to be restructuring an organization that was weaponized against the American people. And it's so evident after Trump's 45th term, where even Trump's house was raided, his kids' stuff gone through, his wife's intimate areas gone through, everything in the name of weaponizing the FBI against an American person. We have Lee Zeldin, who's going to come into he is confirmed. He's going into the EPA director. EPA is an organization that, although it's needed because we have to care about our environment and about the planet that we're leaving behind, we have to understand that a lot of the stuff that's been going on in the world of environmental protection has been a hoax. We have to understand that the long-reaching effects of what's going on, it won't change. But yet we're choking the American infrastructure. We're choking the American financial institutions and everything. The American person. How much of your fuel are you paying every single month just straight to taxes and EPA fines and all this kind of stuff? Although he's from New York, he's been somebody who's been on Trump's side ever since he was on Trump's corner during the impeachment hearings. And I think he's going to do a really good thing. He's going to limit the impact of the EPA versus the American people and American business, but yet he's still going to maintain that lining of we still have to care about our country, we still have to care about our planet. Sean Duffy, he's coming in for Secretary of Transportation. You know what? I think he's going to do amazing. This is one I didn't know a whole bunch about him. I'll be honest with you. But this one I'm passionate about. Why? Our transportation in this country, again, and I hate to just beating it again, but DEI. How many of our transportation organizations are being riddled by people that are hired based on their race, their gender, their sexuality? You know what? Those three things don't matter to me. We live in one of the few countries that actually reached a point where they didn't matter. We were hiring people based on their knowledge, based on their expertise, based on what they can do in that position, how they can better that position. Another thing that's going on in this one is that there's so much corruption. We're not issuing contracts to the best producer of a certain thing, Boeing or whoever. No. Who's paying the most money? Who's lining the most pockets? They get the contracts. But yet American people use these things every single day, and we think that our American government has been put in place to protect us against this corruption, that we can feel safe by sitting in an airplane because the FAA has done their job. And then you come to find out they're understaffed, but yet they're turning down new hires. Why? Because the new hires were the wrong gender or they were the wrong race. Oh, we need to look a certain way. Really? You're understaffed by more than 50%, but you care that the fact that the person who applied is white and you would look you were looking for a Latino or a black person to take that position? Well, whenever this recent absolute travesty over the Potomac happened, I bet you they didn't care that who was flying the plane, what color they were, or what their significant other looked like, or what they did in the privacy of their own bedroom. All I care about is the fact that lives were lost at a complete negligence, in my opinion. Whenever you find out that air traffic controllers are understaffed by more than half. Now I have a subscription to Blaze TV, and a lot of the people on Blaze TV I thoroughly respect. I think they're highly educated. I think their heart's in the right place. I think it's a great place to get information from. It's not the only place I get information from, but I think it's great. And there's a special on there called a Countdown to the Next Aviation Disaster. And if you don't have Blaze TV, you can probably find it on YouTube. I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube. The Countdown to the Next Aviation Disaster was recorded months ago. And it seems pretty ominous that a lot of the things that were discussed in that special, you can see them in what just happened now. People that are underqualified, ill-qualified, people that have no right to be in those positions were given positions based on improper hiring practices by the FAA. And just like that, all of our transportation organizations needs to be gone through, and we need to wring out the people that aren't doing their job correctly or at all, and we need to replace them by people that want to do the job and that are skilled and qualified to do those jobs. And I think Sean Duffy is the man for it. I think he'll do that, and I think he'll get our organizations to the place that when you get on a plane, there's no second thought. You'll know that the person flying the plane is the best one for the job. The person in the tower is the best one for the job. The person who handled your tickets, the best one for the job. TSA, you know that you're safe. There's no weapons on this plane because TSA did their job, because it wasn't a DEI hire. It was somebody who truly deserved the job. Homeland Security, talking about TSA and all that, Homeland Security, the director, Kristi Noem, I think she is, although, albeit she doesn't have the most, I don't know exactly her background in Homeland Security, but here's what I do know about her. She's passionate, she's honest, and she's willing. She's a team player. She's going to make sure that everything that happens with Homeland Security, which people, if you don't know this, Homeland Security has a huge reach. After 9/11, Homeland Security was given a lot of power and a lot of budget. And they have a lot of reason. And you know what? I'm not against it necessarily. If the budget's there and it's been gone through and it's being used effectively, give it to them, because they're supposed to work in hand with ICE and FBI and everybody. Because why? Because that's kind of like that umbrella that you know. So far, she's doing great things. She's partnered with ICE and working in the southern border. She's been revoking temporary status for illegal immigrants. At this point, if you come into our country illegally, you broke a law. So it's harsh to call them illegal or to call them a criminal. If you break a law, it's a crime, and if you commit crime, you're a criminal. It just makes sense. Her reaction to the collision on the Potomac that we were just talking about, I think, is amazing. She was dedicated. She showed up immediately to make sure that everybody knew what was going on and to have her part in it as a director of Homeland Security. You don't necessarily need the experience in this one as much as you need the honesty. Now, she does have experience, and I'm not saying that she's ill-equipped for the job. She's equipped for the job. But more than anything, what this position requires, in my opinion, is honesty, dedication, and prompt. She has to be prompt. She has to be there. She has to be present. Not like the last president who we didn't know what he was doing for the last 6 months. You have to be prompt and present to make sure that the job is done correctly. John Ratcliffe is coming into as a CIA director. Good luck, John. I literally, you're in my prayers along with everybody else. The CIA was an organization really developed to work abroad and collect information and give it to us. And unfortunately, it's another one of the agencies that has been weaponized against the American people, in my opinion. I think it's time that we really look into it. And I think John Ratcliffe, I think he has a one heck of a job in front of him to really get in there and find out all the corruption, figure out what's going on with the budget of where the money's going, what the money's being used for. How are we collecting information abroad? Once we collect it, what are we doing with the information? Is it properly being processed? He has the data collection alone is going to be a very heavy task, but John Ratcliffe partnering up with Trump and working on the team that he's created, along with D.O.G.E, helping with the financial aspect and making sure that we're allotting the proper budget where it's needed. I think it's impressive, and I think he'll do great things. Now, the last one that I'm going to touch on is one that I am biased on. I'm going to be frank about it. I'm from Florida originally, and Florida has a special place in my heart. A lot of my family's in Florida. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. I think this is the best choice. And if I'm biased, and then I'm biased, and I'll be it, but Marco Rubio, I would have voted for him for president back in the day if he would have ran. I think he's a man that's highly educated. I think he's a man that's passionate about the American freedom that we have. Having a Hispanic background, and I as well have a Hispanic background in similar states, and there's just something about somebody who understands the threat of losing the American way, and knowing how fast we can slip if we start to sacrifice those freedoms. And Marco Rubio, somebody who understands that, in my opinion, very, very well. He's already confirmed, and one of the first things he did was go to the Panama Canal. Panama Canal is something that we built. If you transfer the money into today's dollar, trillions of dollars, thousands of lives lost, the American lives that were lost to build the Panama Canal. To then turn it over in one of the worst deals for $1 to the Panamanian government, to now be having to pay to use the canal, and China reaping all the benefits of the canal that we, American blood, sweat, tears, and dollars built. And Marco Rubio went and brokered a deal now between him and Trump that we have access, we have control of the Panama Canal again, which is not only good for our American people that can maybe pay a little bit less for goods that have to transport through to the Panama Canal. But in addition to that, it limits China's stranglehold on the Panama Canal and how much money they're making on it. And lastly, in this deal, for the first time since we had control of it, American military ships are able to cross the canal at no cost. The fact that we were even paying to cross our military ships is absolutely atrocious. I have no idea why the ships are passing through there. We offer protection. We're protecting our own country. We're protecting other countries in the area as we monitor what's going on, and yet it's costing us money. I know that in the grand scheme of things, it's $2 or $3 million, which for our federal government, that's a rounding error. But still, it's money that we should not be spending. So I'm excited about this deal. I think having control of this canal and renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, why not? It's ours. We monitor it. We protect it. We do it. It's ours. It's touching most of our southern states. I think that these kind of movements that we're making are going to have lasting effects. Our kids will reap the benefits of having the Panama Canal under the American control. Again, it ensures that the canal will be properly maintained for future generations, and it ensures that the American goods that need to transport through there can transport cost effectively and securely. Thank you so much for joining me today. I urge you, I really do urge you to, to commit to looking at all of the confirmations that are yet to come. And in every single one, research the person that's been put up for the job. And if you agree with them, like I think you will on most of them, I've looked into all of them. These are great people, dedicated Americans that aren't doing it for the dollar, for the corruption, or for how they can line their pockets, but they're doing it for you and for me, and for the benefit of this country, and to secure that our country is the best country moving forward, generation after generation. Look into them. And more importantly, if you do agree with whoever is being confirmed, look at your local representation of your state. And if they vote against somebody, like, for example, Pete Hegseth had some people vote against him, make your voice heard peacefully. That's the American way. We're not here to have war with each other. But let your local congressman, your senator, whoever, your representative that you elected to his position, write a letter, send an email, make a phone call, and let him know, if you don't start representing my voice in this fight, and then the next time election comes around, I'm going to make sure that my voice stands against you. And I'm going to make sure that my voice and my vote doesn't go to somebody who isn't willing to put the American way, the American pride, the American joy, the American everything, the freedoms that we have, if they're not willing to put those first. And then why don't we exercise those freedoms, and let's make sure that every time we vote, we make our vote count. And this is a prime opportunity where you can see the reaction of your local representation, of your local elected officials. And you get to see Where did you truly put your vote whenever it comes down to it? Are these people that are going to stand for you and represent you and be a voice, be a microphone for your voice? Are these people that are so worried about their own greed and their own corruption and their own party politics that they leave you behind, they abandon you, and they let you fend for yourself? Again, this is Andrew Maines, and this is the 425 podcast. I thank you so much for joining me today. Subscribe, hit the like button, and whatever media that you're watching on, and most of all, leave a comment. Let me know how you're feeling in this time. Let me know concerns and comments and all that. We are a faith-based podcast. Do you have any prayer requests you prefer to send those my way too? Let's team up. Let's be a family here of Americans. Let's let our voice be heard. Thank you.